When an interviewer says, "Tell me about your work experience," they are not asking you to read your resume out loud. They already have your resume. What they want is a clear, relevant explanation of what you have done, how well you did it, and whether that experience prepares you for this job. A strong answer is usually about 1 to 2 minutes. It follows a simple path. Give a relevant timeline, explain your scope, offer your strongest proof, mention the tools or process behind your work, and finish by connecting the experience to the role in front of you. The biggest mistake is treating this question like an autobiography. A weak answer sounds like this. I started at Green Street Services in 2018 as an assistant. Then I moved to another company in 2020. I worked there for 2 years before joining my current employer. I've done customer service, administration, reporting, and some project work. Now I'm looking for a new challenge. Nothing there is necessarily bad. The problem is that the interviewer has to do all the work. They have to figure out what this person is good at, how much responsibility they had, and why any of it matters for the open position. Your answer should do that work for them. This question is also different from "tell me about yourself." A "tell me about yourself" answer can include your professional identity, your current direction, and why you became interested in the opportunity. The work experience question puts more pressure on evidence. The interviewer wants to understand your actual responsibilities, decisions, and results. So let's build the answer in 5 parts. First, give a relevant timeline. Relevant is the key word. You do not need to describe every job with equal detail. Start with the experience that created the foundation for your current work. Then move quickly toward your most recent and most relevant role. You might say, I started in customer support, where I learned how to investigate account issues and communicate with frustrated customers. I then moved into customer success, and for the past 3 years, I've managed business accounts for a software company. That gives the interviewer a career path without trapping them inside a year-by-year history. If you have 10 years of experience, your earliest roles might need only 1 sentence. If you are early in your career, your timeline can include internships, substantial academic projects, freelance work, volunteering, or part-time jobs. The test is not whether you were paid a full-time salary. The test is whether the experience demonstrates skills needed in the role. Second, explain your scope. Job titles are unreliable. An operations coordinator at one company might schedule meetings and update spreadsheets. At another company, the same title might manage vendors, monitor a budget, and coordinate projects across several departments. Scope tells the interviewer what sat inside your area of responsibility. Instead of saying, I was responsible for marketing, say, I managed the weekly email campaign, maintained the content calendar, coordinated approvals with sales and product teams, and reported campaign performance to the marketing manager. Notice that this is still concise, but now the interviewer can picture the work. Useful scope details might include the type of customer you supported, the kind of projects you handled, the teams you worked with, the frequency of the work, and the level of ownership you had. Include numbers when they are accurate and meaningful, but do not force a number into every sentence. If practical job search advice like this is useful, subscribe. The goal here is to help you turn experience you already have into evidence employers can understand. Third, choose your strongest proof. This is where many answers become too vague. Candidates list responsibilities, but never explain what happened because of their work. Here is weak wording. I handled reports and helped improve the reporting process. Here is a stronger version. I noticed that the weekly report required managers to combine information from several spreadsheets. I standardized the input template, added validation checks, and created a repeatable reporting workflow. That reduced preparation time and gave the team a more consistent view of open issues. The stronger answer explains the problem, the candidate's actions, and the result. Even without a percentage, the improvement is clear. MIT's career guidance on the STAR method makes a useful point about evidence-based interview answers. Most of the story should focus on the actions you personally took, not on lengthy background information. That principle applies here too. Do not spend 40 seconds explaining the company's history and then 5 seconds describing your contribution. Use I when you explain your actions. You can acknowledge the team, but the interviewer still needs to identify your part. Weak wording sounds like, "We launched a new onboarding process and it went really well." Stronger wording sounds like, "The customer success team redesigned onboarding and I owned the training materials and follow-up process. I interviewed account managers to identify common customer questions, rebuilt the onboarding guide, and introduced scheduled check-ins during the first month." That gave customers clearer next steps and gave account managers a consistent process to follow. You are not claiming that you did everything. You are making your contribution visible. Your strongest proof does not always have to be a dramatic achievement. It can be a difficult problem you solved, a process you improved, a customer you retained, an error you prevented, a project you delivered, or a responsibility you earned because people trusted your work. Fourth, explain the tools or process behind the result. Results are more credible when the interviewer can understand how you produce them. Suppose someone says, "I improved project delivery." That could mean almost anything. A more useful explanation would be, "I created a shared project tracker, assigned a clear owner to each deliverable, and introduced a short weekly review for risks and dependencies. I used Asana for task management and Excel for the budget tracker." Tools matter when they help establish readiness for the job. Name the tools you genuinely used, especially when they also appear in the job description. But do not turn the answer into a software inventory. "I used Salesforce, Excel, Slack, PowerPoint, Jira, Tableau, Teams, and Google Workspace" is just a list. A better version is, "I tracked customer activity in Salesforce, used Excel to review renewal patterns, and turned that information into a weekly risk report for the account team." Now the tools support a work process. They are not floating keywords. The same rule applies if your experience is less technical. You can explain how you prioritized requests, checked quality, gathered requirements, communicated delays, documented decisions, or worked with stakeholders. The interviewer is listening for a method they can trust. Fifth, explain why your experience fits this role. Do not end with, "And that's basically my experience." Give the interviewer a conclusion. You could say, "That combination of customer communication, process improvement, and account reporting is what interested me in this role." You're looking for someone who can support clients while also improving how the team operates, and that has been a major part of my recent work. This is not a speech about how much you want the job. It is a short argument showing that your background matches the employer's problem. Now let's put the full structure together. Imagine you are interviewing for an operations specialist role. A weak answer might be, "I have about 6 years of experience. I started as an administrative assistant, then became a coordinator, and now I'm an operations associate. I've worked on lots of different projects and used several systems. I'm organized, hardworking, and ready to take the next step." Here is the stronger version. "I started in administrative support, where I built a strong foundation in scheduling, documentation, and handling urgent requests. I then moved into an operations coordinator position, and in my current role, I support purchasing and internal projects for 3 departments. My work includes coordinating vendor requests, tracking approvals, maintaining project documentation, and flagging delays before they affect delivery. One improvement I'm especially proud of was reorganizing our purchasing request process. I mapped the approval steps, created one intake form, and introduced a tracker that showed each request's owner and status. That reduced confusion between departments and made delayed approvals easier to identify. I mainly use Excel for tracking and analysis, and our internal purchasing system for orders and documentation. This role stood out because it needs someone who can coordinate across teams, improve processes, and keep detailed work moving, which closely matches the work I'm doing now. That answer provides direction, scope, proof, process, and fit. It does not cover every task the candidate has ever completed. It selects the information that helps the interviewer make a decision. Career changers should use the same structure, but translate the connection more directly. For example, a teacher moving into corporate training might say, "For the past 5 years, I've designed lessons, delivered instruction, evaluated performance, and adjusted materials based on learner needs. In my current school, I also lead onboarding sessions for new teachers and maintain shared training resources. That experience has taught me how to break complex information into clear steps, facilitate groups, and use feedback to improve learning materials. Those are the capabilities I would bring to this training specialist role." The candidate is not pretending teaching and corporate training are identical. They are showing the overlap with specific evidence. Before your interview, prepare a flexible outline rather than memorizing a paragraph. Identify the 2 or 3 roles that matter most. Write down the scope of your recent work. Choose one strong result. Note the tools or process behind it. Then identify 2 requirements from the job description that your experience supports. Practice until you can explain the answer clearly, but keep the wording conversational. If the interviewer looks interested in one example, pause and let them ask a follow-up question. A good answer creates useful openings for the rest of the interview. Remember the basic sequence: relevant timeline, scope, strongest proof, tools or process, and why it fits this role. You are not trying to tell the interviewer everything. You are helping them see the most important parts quickly. If you have a work experience answer you are struggling to organize, share your question in the comments. You can also suggest the next interview question you want covered.